When this item goes down to 12:14, it's going to tell you time to replenish. It's going to take you up to at least 14:41, and we're going to get 230 at a crack at least because that's EOQ for this item. All right. Now later we'll come and talk about some of these other things if you want to freeze them and such. Again, going through this, but this is where it all comes together. And this is the way I like to say this. The last day and a half, company objectives, kind of excluded by under, was all for what? Right here. I know we spent a day and a half, but it was all to get to this point, order point and line point and EOQ for this item and how we got there. Usage, lead time, safety, order point adjusters, review cycle, and boom. You look through that, any fax users, bring up a question if you have things on there. It can be later today, it can be tomorrow during our Q&A. But again, I covered very quickly the main parts out of it. SX, same thing. Coming back all together. Got my usage rate, got my lead time, got the safety stock. Here's how it came up with the usage method. Then it calculates the actual usage, applies it to the lead time. Here's our order point adjusters. And in the end, order point and line point. All right? That's what it was. And EOQ. Even though it's called order quantity, it's EOQ. This is what the last day and a half was about to get to this spot. Now again, I'll toggle back and forth for a second. Does anyone have questions on either of the screens? Because at this point, probably 95, I won't say 100, 95, you look at it and go, oh, I'm now thinking about that differently than 2 days ago. I now understand somewhat where it's coming from much better than I did 2 days ago, and I have a much better handle on this screen. Anything at all. Or this screen, where it all comes together. Okay. Now, just to tie a few more things back into SX and some overrides. At the ICSW level, remember we set up seasonality and trending? This is where I can come in and say, you know, this item is trending 300%. Well, let me see what I've got in there. It's doing the 75. Okay, so let's do this. I've got a product out there that was trending down by 50%. The way we had SX, we said you can go ahead and trend down by up to 50%. We got looking at it and ran into some problems with the global, and we came into this particular item, ICSW, and said this particular item, I'm only willing to let you trend down to 75. So this is the override down at the item level that would override your upper parameters and let you drive it differently than the general. Is everyone okay with this? Where else would I use this? Hey, it's trying to trend at 400%, and we only allowed 200% on the SX system. The parameter we set up, I looked at the data, it came out on an exception report, and I go, this item really is up 400%. So I'm going to come in, tell it I'm going to allow you to trend up to 400%. You see this expiration date. Now this one's different than a lot of the freezes. When should I have a trend override expire? Because there I'm thinking, what was it? End of season. That's perfect. Or a lot of things were freezing for 6 months. That's kind of a standard. With trending, what did we say? Oh, I've looked at this season. Looks like we're up 400%. I want to rethink that next season. Oh, I'm a pool distributor. My season ends in September. I would put that override trend in there till September and have it override because I'm putting it in for the season. Same way on SX, same way on fax. And the last part to bring this together, Frozen. Now, I watched Frozen very closely. I got confused with the one that Eric was going in because he was on track with what he was saying about the little freeze. I'm thinking about the big overall freeze. You have the capability, and a lot of you are still there, that we can go in and manually set the order point, the line point, the EOQ, and lock it in and freeze it. When you freeze the order point, line point, and EOQ, what are you doing? I just want to make sure everyone understands. Everything we've talked about the last day and a half, you're throwing out. You're saying, nope, I'm going to control the order point. I'm going to control the line point. I'm going to control the EOQ, and I can either freeze it forever or a set number of months. We shouldn't have to freeze. Back before these releases, you probably had to freeze a lot because you didn't have all these tools. We have much better tools, parameters, and data. You should not have to freeze very many things on your system. We've gone out and looked at this a lot of times. For most companies, set up right, feeding the right data, and using it right it works from about 93 to 96% of your SKUs. Now, that doesn't mean you have some T-mins out there. You will, but they're not frozen. They're thresholds. They're minimums. I'm talking about actual frozen items, 3 or 4% at most. We move into companies still today that we call them freeze happy. 80% of their stuff's frozen. It was either from when they converted 20 years ago or the sales department dictating what number should be there. And they're saying all day long, what about their purchasing system? It doesn't work, it's broke. It doesn't work, it's broke. And I go, well, it's manually set. You're not using the purchasing system. You set a min and max out there manually and following it. That's not the purchasing system. Everyone following me? That's what numbers you're setting there. Does anyone need to talk about overall freezing before I go through it? That I'm missing something, that the reasons you need to freeze or not freeze? That you're going, we still freeze a lot because, Grant? Does everyone agree in today's world there should be very little freezing going on? Let your system work for you. No, sorry. Oh, he's agreeing. Okay. All right, so now, to go out and freeze, though, if you do have to lock some things in, on, facts, again, replenishment parameters, maintenance, I can come in here and I can freeze the order point. Now, SX is a little different. You're either freezing it all or you're not. Fax allows you to break it apart. Yeah, let's freeze the order point to something, or let's freeze the line point to something. Let's freeze the EOQ order quantity. You can freeze the rank. You can freeze the lead time. You can freeze the safety stock. Now, we like this one on fax the way we did it. When we get to SX, we'll go, we're not quite as happy. This actually has what? Freeze it. Eric's already going, where's this on mine? Reason, the day to expire and the memo. So now he could have froze that safety earlier for 6 months and go away on fax. On SX, once you click the box, it's there until you remember to unclick it, or it's there forever. All right? But again, just allowing me to come in, freeze things for, I'm not saying there won't be times for freezes. They'll be lighter, there won't be as many, and these are gonna unfreeze at some point and tell you about it. Nice. Mr. Ron.
In SX, you can freeze it and determine how many months you're going to do, and it counts down.
You can freeze the order point, line point, EOQ for a number of months. But any of the little subcategories, rank, lead time, safety stock, usage control is either froze or not.
Yeah, correct. But you mentioned it's either once you check it, you're froze forever. That's not true. You can count down the months.
Yeah, on the order point and line point.
Right.
Yes. And again, just bring it back over, restock, freeze, and again, it will come out and tell you there's some things in here. I'm trying to look for it. What's in, oh, right here. Here I can freeze the rank. Here it's going to tell me I've got a frozen lead time. Here's telling me the frozen order point, line point, and the freezes. So you got 2 ways you can come into this and freeze things. Through the freeze maintenance or through the actual item maintenance.
On a couple of the screens,
Another Ron. I was thinking that.
There's a purchasing line. Can you kind of give us an overview of what, we've passed it on several screens, but we haven't really gone into what that does?
Here's what a P line is. And that's in both systems. And we had problems when we first got an SX. It didn't have a P line. And when we first got the fax, I don't think it had a P line or didn't use it the way. What did P line stand for? Because it got hijacked by most of your companies. I'll be right there. P line stood for purchasing line. Not product line, purchasing line. And here was the distinction.